So Dr. Kelly, thank you so much for this interview.
You're very welcome. Glad to share.
So I know that we have formed, or you formed as a superintendent, a return to school committee. Tell us what the role of that committee is and who serves on it.
Well, the idea is to prepare for the fall and to realize that there are three distinct scenarios that we must be prepared for. And I can explain that a little bit as we go along. In terms of preparing for it, at this point I've got, of course, senior administration on the committee, including like the CFO, technology, assistant superintendents over the different schools, our special program, special ed staff. We have 4 principals on there. Obviously communication, yourself, our athletic director, our transportation director, our chief nurse. We have a retired teacher. We have daycare providers we're working on getting additional 2 there. We have elementary, middle school, junior high, and high school parents on there that are not employees, as well as parents on there who are employees of the school district, so that we have a good cross-section. We're going to add, as we become just a little bit more specific than we were today in our latest, we're going to add some teachers as well. And we're also interested in a little bit of more community participation from those who might be able to take care of our kids if and when we can't hold school on a particular day or week or month.
Okay, very good. So tell us a little bit about the vision of this committee and how the district, you mentioned some different scenarios that we're preparing for and what those are.
The vision is that we must be prepared for whatever comes down the pike in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic. And as I see it, and I'm not unique in this, I've been reading of other school districts with identical way of thinking about this, and that is that there are 3 potential scenarios. One, like we've just gone through for the last 9 weeks, which is totally distance learning where kids are at home. Obviously, that has its issues and problems. The second one, and of course would be the most preferable one, is normal school operations where every kid can be on campus every day and we can return to at least something similar to normal. Obviously that will include PPE and social distancing concerns and sanitizing surfaces and things like that. And then the third one, which is sort of between the two, we call it the hybrid option, and that's essentially where we want to make sure that we have at least some FaceTime, face-to-face instruction with kids, so that when they are working at home, then there's a much more seamless interaction between the two. And of course, again, that is only if that kind of a system was required of us. It is better than total distance learning. It is not as desirable as a fully return every kid to school every day. Okay. If that helps.
Very good. Thank you so much for that explanation. So what is it we can expect for the 2021 school calendar? And, could we possibly start earlier or even extend the school year? And, there has been suggested this intersessional calendar from the Texas Education Agency.
Yes.
Can you tell us what that is if we're considering it in Pearland ISD?
Yeah. I have thoroughly vetted the intersessional calendar idea. The commissioner has come out with some support for that, and I highly respect him. But what I've basically determined, just to get to the bottom line, is that it is not something our community would agree to. Essentially, it would start the school year earlier, like early August, and end in late June. And it would build in these longer holiday breaks, like 3 weeks, or let's say 2 weeks for Thanksgiving, 4 weeks for Christmas, 2 weeks for spring break, in order to sort of, as the year happens and there's disruptions, you then load those school days into those longer breaks and so on. The problem with it is if you set up a calendar like that, you've moved daycare necessities from the summer to these different points in the year where they're all gone from our schools, all needing daycare or supervision. So we found basically zero support for this with the committee and zero support from the administration, and even we've talked at least a little bit about this, or I have, with the board, and everybody sees that this is not something that our community is likely to want to see.
And so we know that we've seen kind of in our area some school districts who have altered their current 2021 school calendar. Is that something that we are considering, just even altering it slightly as far as maybe starting earlier or
No,
extending?
at this point, we don't see the advantage to it. We are starting earlier than some districts. We're starting, oh boy, it's a Thursday, and I don't remember what day it was, in August, third Thursday of the month, I think. But, and that's earlier, about a week earlier than some. But we're also adhering to the strong desire of the community to be finished before Memorial Day. So both of those things remain intact, and basically the type of calendar we've had over the last 2 years is the one that we're sticking to right now.
And so the board calendar that was approved in February or March will be the one that we will be moving forward.
That's correct.
Great, thank you so much. And so while we're hoping that we're able to have a very normal school year and a bell schedule to match that we're used to having, what considerations are being discussed if the schedule has to be adjusted?
Okay, now I think where you're going with that is this hybrid option. And essentially, you know, listening to all these people, and there's pretty much unanimous agreement on this large return to school committee and among the senior administration, and that is that if we have to go to a combination of the face-to-face learning and distance learning, that at the elementary level, meaning grades pre-K through 4, all the classes would meet every day, but only for a half day. And the idea is half the kids come in the morning, half the kids come in the afternoon, and so we help mitigate the social distancing and all that, but at least provide everyday service to the little ones. With grades 5 through 12, that is not as good a system as what we have in mind, in the sense that kids, particularly junior high and above, are taking 7 classes. You can't really cram 7 classes into a 4-hour day. And so what we're doing there is we're going to propose an every other day approach where, for example, half of the kids in the high school would come to the campus on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then be at home learning on Tuesday and Thursday, and then that would flip the following week. And neither of these things are ideal, and certainly not as ideal as having kids come every day, but this will ensure that what happens in the school is much better connected to what happens at home through distance learning than what we've been able to do over these past 9 weeks.
Great. And so when do you think a decision will be made about the model and the bell schedule that Pearland ISD will put into place for next school year? When do you anticipate?
The committee has already said these are the best overall 3 options, but in terms of filling in all the blanks, there's a ton of stuff to think about, from food service to technology to so on. Those things will be worked on and filled in over the next month or so. But a decision as to which models we go to, that is going to be an ongoing decision that is at the national level, that is with the governor, with the county officials, with local conditions, all those kind of things. And those not only might change over the course of the summer, but they might change as we go into the fall and spring, depending on which expert you listen to.
Very true. So explain to us the challenges that are faced in terms of transportation and food service you mentioned when we consider coming back to school.
Well, the clearest thing I can say about transportation is our average school bus has a capacity of 73 kids, and that's really, in truth, 73 little kids. If you follow social distancing guidelines, that is reduced all the way from 73 down to something like 12 to 18 kids, depending on how many siblings are on the same bus. So it is completely impossible in Texas or anywhere in the United States to triple or quadruple your bus fleet, both in terms of the number of buses and in terms of the number of drivers. And so you've got to do different things with bus service, and that's part of this hybrid system. Basically has less kids on each part of the day and each part of the week. That's the idea. And you asked about something
about food service as well.
Yeah,
the
food
challenges.
service, the problem is jamming kids as we do now normally into a large cafeteria setting automatically cancels all social distancing precautions. So On the other hand, we know that kids won't eat if many of the kids won't eat unless there's some degree of choice in what they eat. And so the middle ground is to bring kids in small numbers to the cafeteria where they can choose what they're going to eat, or their parents bring them a sack lunch, and then they eat that sack lunch or that food selection from the cafeteria back in their classrooms or scattered throughout the campus so that they're not all congregated in one place. So that's another difficult scenario to carry out, but we got our food service people and all kinds of folks working on that potential plan.
Perfect. I know they're working hard on that as well. So if the district must continue any type of distance or remote learning, whether it be full-time or in the hybrid model that's combined with on-campus instruction, how will remote learning differ in the coming fall?
Okay, and that is so important, Kim. We feel like we did a great job of experimenting and improving. We went from normal school to boom, distance learning, and that's the only game in town. And our teachers bent over backwards and did all this incredible work. But, we had to basically take what we could from kids. We had to say, do the work and you'll pass, and you won't come out any worse than you did before we were forced into remote learning. But in the fall, that system has to change. It has to be robust and comprehensive. It needs to be able to take grades. It needs to be accountable. We need to know what kids are doing every day, not for attendance purposes, but for learning purposes. We need to make sure that there's no kid out there left out, and either whatever the circumstances where they're not participating in what we're providing. So all of that requires robust, comprehensive distance learning with a good software learning platform underneath it.
And one thing I've heard you mention is the seamless transition.
Yes.
So talk to us about what we're striving for in that aspect.
Yeah, now that can turn out to be a pretty expensive thing. But basically what we're talking about is if kids are familiar with the technology at school, when they're at school getting the instruction, and if they're totally familiar with the tools and the software and the platform and all that, from that kind of instruction, from the teacher-aided instruction, then when they're at home, it's easy to open up that tablet and do those tasks because it's the very same hardware, software, and so on that they're already used to doing at school. Now, when I say it's expensive, ideally, that means that kids have in their possession at home the very same instrument that they would have used at school. And many districts that have more money, receive more money from the state than we do, have already moved to what is called a one-to-one initiative, where every kid has, in this case, a tablet or an instrument, and they use it at home, and in some cases can bring it to school and use it at school. So for us, that's a very expensive proposition. We figure that's about $11 million for just the tablets themselves, pre-K through 12, and there will be additional personnel costs for maintaining it and so on, and there may be some costs for insurance or other things that are a fee to parents so that there's skin in the game to keep that computer in good operating order and so on. So at this point,
this is just a consideration.
This is a consideration. I really got to emphasize that, because although the board has kind of nodded their head and seen that this would be helpful, we all have to take a deep breath and see what we can afford. Our school district has always been very fiscally conservative, very careful about the tax rate and all those kinds of things. And so it is by no means a done deal. It expresses the ideal and the hope to see how close can we come to that ideal and how much must we do over time and in accordance with our funding.
Very good. And when it comes to instruction, Dr. Kelly, what kind of software platforms will be used, and how will that technology be integrated on a daily basis?
With regard to the actual distance learning experience we just went through, the number one complaint that we heard, or, now, don't get me wrong, people were overwhelmingly grateful for the efforts of our teachers and our staff. But the one real issue was that in some cases the poor parents were trying to decipher their way through 4 or 5 different major instructional software platforms. We've listened to that, and so our best software platform for the upper grades, and this is from grade 5 through 12, will be Canvas. It's similar for those who have been in college, it's very similar but more capable than Blackboard. And so it will be the one main thing. Now in grades K through 4, although we would like all pre-K through 12 to be on the same platform, it's not realistic because we don't think that Canvas is good enough for those grade levels. So we're using Seesaw, and parents are already familiar with that, and teachers and so on. There's a lot more to offer for pre-K through 4. So basically we've gotten it down from I don't know how many different miscellaneous software platforms that all the teachers and everybody, to basically 2 through which parents can help at home and kids are already used to and using.
Great, thank you. And so we know as a district, health and safety of our students, our staff is always at the top of our list. And so what measures will be in place if and when we return to campus in the fall?
Well, a lot of that's being worked on, but there's some obvious things, you know. And again, this depends on guidance from CDC and elsewhere. But of course, protective equipment, meaning face shields and masks, the social distancing requirements, the sanitizing of surfaces, although the science and so on surfaces seems to be changing over the last month in terms of what to do and what not to bother with. Nurses' stations, we're looking at you know, physical layout and you know, the whole plexiglass type thing, but also air circulation units. Lots of things around the school, just as you see in some stores and elsewhere, those stations where you can wash your hands,
sanitize,
all kinds of things. So there's a million things going on. I really can't in this interview go into all that. And some of it will depend, the intensity of it depend on what the CDC and other health officials are telling us as we get closer to the fall semester.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And so when it comes to the Return to School Committee, where can people learn more about what discussions are taking place, and how can families and staff who are not on the committee maybe share their input? Yeah,
well, Kim, one of the best ways, other than this video, I hope that's helpful, is pretty much on a weekly basis now, we're giving out a synopsis of the work of that committee. And so, for example, I met with that committee via Microsoft Teams this morning, and probably by Friday of this week, you will, and with me, be developing an article or minutes or something that we can put up there like we've done these past weeks. And of course, every regular board meeting, monthly board meeting, I give an update on as much as I can to the board at those meetings live.
Anything else you'd like to share?
Well, just, you know, a great deal of appreciation for the teachers and the staff over these last 9 weeks, and a thankfulness that I feel like a lot of our parents have kind of realized how much there is to teaching now that they've had to spend considerable time doing it at home in addition to what they've done in the past. And so I just hope that appreciation lasts as we go into the next school year, and as we ask our teachers and everybody else in the organization to adapt to what may be some anywhere from small changes to fairly radical changes in order to keep everybody healthy and safe. And we want to be a world-class school district. And in order to do that, we don't want to just kind of fit somewhere in the average as we adjust to these new realities, but really look on it as a challenge, take the best out of it that we can, and maybe do some great things here in Pearland ISD.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.